Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. I was the last one through the doors. Everyone was already seated, heads turned toward the front where the flag-draped coffin sat under dim lights. I stood near the back, barely out of the aisle, still catching my breath from the drive. The air smelled like old wood and too many cheap colognes. Eyes flicked toward me and then away, like I didn't belong here, like I'd interrupted something sacred. Then I heard her. "Well, look who decided to show up," Aunt Linda said, not even trying to whisper. Her voice cut through the quiet like a damn chainsaw. Michelle always thought she was going to be a war hero or something. Guess the war didn't agree with her schedule. Some people turned, some didn't. A couple of relatives chuckled under their breath. One of them, my uncle, I think, murmured, "She never sticks with anything anyway." I didn't say a word. I just stared straight ahead and locked my jaw. Linda was always loud, always nasty. Her smile had venom behind it, especially when it was aimed at me. She shifted in her seat, clearly proud of herself, her shoulder brushing against Jenna, her daughter, like it was some tag team moment. Jenna just sipped from a water bottle and didn't say a thing. "Quick note, before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from?" I found an open spot against the back wall, folded my arms tight across my chest. The chapel felt colder now, but my neck burned. They didn't want me here. That much was clear, and honestly, I didn't come for them. I came for Tyler. He was the only one in this damn family who ever saw me for more than a list of failures. I remembered when I enlisted. Everyone rolled their eyes like it was just another phase. Everyone but him. Tyler had stood up at Grandma's house, pointed at me, and said, "She's gonna make it. She's tougher than any of you think." Now he was in a box, and I was standing in a room full of people who couldn't wait to pretend he never believed in me. The chaplain stepped up to the pulpit and cleared his throat. I swallowed hard and stayed quiet. I wanted to turn around and walk right back out that door, but I didn't. I stayed, because Tyler would've. The cemetery was quiet except for the wind cutting through the trees and the occasional sniffle from someone behind me. The line of uniforms surrounding the casket made everything feel more official, more final. I kept to the side, hands in my coat pockets, staring at the flag that draped Tyler's coffin, like it still belonged to someone alive. Jenna slid up beside me, heels crunching soft against the gravel. She gave me a quick glance, then looked ahead like she didn't care who saw us standing together. "Glad to see you finally settled into something steady," she muttered, her voice all sugar with just enough poison to taste. I didn't bite. "Yeah, logistics work. Keeps me busy." She nodded, smiling like I'd just said I worked at a DMV. "That's good. Stability's important. Some people just need a little more time to figure things out." I was about to answer when Linda's voice sliced through the air behind us. "There she is, our brave little paper pusher," she said, loud enough for the whole damn row to hear. "Didn't quite make it past desk work, huh?" A few people turned. I kept my eyes on the casket, jaw locked. "Not everybody's cut out for the field," Linda added, pretending she was talking to someone else. "But paperwork's important too, I guess." I didn't move. I didn't even blink. She wanted a scene. She wanted me to snap so she could play the victim later. Tyler would have rolled his eyes and said, "Don't waste energy on people too small to see the big picture." He always said I was the strongest person he knew. Used to tell his buddies I could outrun half the guys in his unit and outshoot the rest. I remember him lifting my arm in the middle of a cookout and yelling, "This one right here? She's the real deal," I'd laughed, shoved him off. But secretly, I held onto that like armor. Now that voice was gone, buried 6 feet down, and all that was left was this damn echo of Linda's running commentary. The honor guard stepped forward, boots hitting dirt in perfect rhythm. They folded the flag slow, precise, deliberate. Carmen, Tyler's widow, stood up front, holding her breath so hard I thought she'd pass out. She had one hand gripping the folded letter they'd given her earlier, the other clutching something tight in her jacket. Then she stepped forward and laid it gently on top of the casket. It was his medal, Bronze Star. I saw it glint in the sun and felt something sharp twist in my chest. She didn't say anything, just set it down and pressed her hand to the coffin for a long second. Her shoulders started to shake, and the man next to her, Tyler's old captain, I think, put a steadying hand on her back. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't hurting, but because I'd been trained not to. Instead, I locked every muscle in my face and stood perfectly still while Linda's perfume crept into my space and her fake whispers tried to dig under my skin. I mean, she never even deployed, I heard her say to someone behind us. I almost laughed. If she knew half of it, she'd choke on those pearls she wore to every funeral like a costume. Jenna cleared her throat beside me, awkward now that the mood had shifted. I didn't give her anything to work with. We all stood there in silence as they lowered the casket. The wind picked up again and carried the sound of taps across the cemetery. I stayed until the last note faded. Then I turned and walked toward the line of cars. The line of cars pulled up to Linda's house like a funeral parade with snacks. I parked farther down the block, sat with the engine off, hands still on the wheel. I didn't want to go in. The house looked the same as always. Wide porch, too many flower pots, wind chimes that never shut up. There were voices already spilling out from the open front door. Laughter, clinking plates, the sound of people who'd already moved on. I stared at the front steps and felt the old weight settle on my chest. Tyler would have told me to suck it up. "You've faced worse," he said last time we talked. We were on a video call, me in uniform, him in his barracks, both pretending we had time. I'd said I might skip the next family thing. He'd looked right at me and said, "Don't disappear on them, even if they don't deserve you." I hated how well he knew me. I shut off the ignition, got out, and walked up the steps. Inside, the house was packed. Plates of food on every flat surface, trays of cold cuts, casseroles, and half-eaten desserts. People were standing in tight groups, talking over each other about jobs, grandkids, summer plans. No one noticed me at first. I slipped in like furniture. Then came Linda. "Michelle," she called out, voice high and fake sweet. "There she is. Come meet the in-laws." I barely had time to fake a smile before she grabbed my arm and pulled me toward a group of strangers in the living room. "This is our soldier," she said, like I was some party favor. Didn't quite make it through combat, but she gave office work a shot. The new in-laws chuckled politely, clearly unsure if it was a joke. I gave them a nod. "Nice to meet you." Linda patted my arm like I was a lost child. She always did love playing dress-up in the uniform. "Right, honey." I kept my face still and didn't answer. Let her talk. Let her perform. I was used to it. I slipped away while she launched into some story about Jenna's wedding. Found the far corner of the living room near a side table covered in framed photos. Tyler's was right in the middle, him in his Class A's, grinning like a kid who just got away with something. The knot in my throat tightened. I remembered him standing just like that, back in basic, when he came to see me on family day. Everyone else had bailed. He'd shown up with a cooler full of Gatorade and a grin that could burn through concrete. Said, "You look like hell. I'm proud of you." I looked around the room now. People stuffing their faces, gossiping, laughing like it was a reunion. No one was talking about Tyler. Not really. They were already moving past him. Checking boxes, filling space. I stayed in the corner, eyes on that photo. Let them pretend. I was here for him, not for them. I didn't move from the corner until someone called out for refills. I headed to the kitchen, hoping to pass through unnoticed. But as soon as I hit the hallway, I heard Jenna's voice ringing out from the dining room like a bell no one asked to hear. "So, I'm officially the marketing director now. Full team under me. Bonuses kick in next quarter." The room let out a mix of oohs and polite clapping. Someone tapped a wine glass. Jenna beamed like she'd just won a damn Nobel. I kept my head down, grabbed a soda from the fridge, and was halfway back out when Linda spotted me. "Oh, Michelle," she called, waving me into the spotlight. "Come sit with us. We're sharing updates. Let the family know how everyone's doing." I gave a tight smile and stepped into the doorway, not quite committing to a chair. Linda patted the empty seat next to her. "Don't be shy. Jenna just told us about her big promotion. Now it's your turn. What's new in your little corner of the world?" Eyes turned toward me. Chewing slowed. I took a breath. "I'm still in international operations." Linda tilted her head, mocking confusion. "Operations? That sounds very vague. I work with logistics and coordination." Jenna sipped her wine. "So, like, admin stuff?" I nodded once. "Something like that." That wasn't enough for Linda. She laughed. "Well, I remember when Michelle said she was going to be an officer. Remember that, y'all? Big dreams back then." A cousin across the table chuckled. "Didn't you, like, fail basic or something?" I looked at him sharp and fast. He looked away. Linda kept it rolling. She didn't fail. She just realized it wasn't for her. Boot camp's tough. Lots of yelling, lots of sweat. Poor thing couldn't handle the tone everyone laughed. It wasn't loud, but it was enough. Forks tapping plates. A cough. Then another cousin leaned over and said, "So wait, did you even finish training?" Linda answered before I could. "Oh, she dropped out. Took a desk job instead. It's better for her." Safer, I clenched my soda can so hard I felt the aluminum give. My mouth opened, then closed. What the hell was I supposed to say? Actually, I've seen more combat zones than anyone in this room. They'd either roll their eyes or twist it into another punchline. So I just stood there and took it. Because if I fired back now, it wouldn't land. Not yet. Jenna leaned over toward one of the in-laws. She used to talk about flying helicopters, like actually piloting them. Wild, right? More laughter. I looked over at the hallway mirror, my reflection staring back, blank-faced and locked up. I'd fought harder than they'd ever understand. Bled in places they couldn't even pronounce, and they still saw me as the girl who couldn't handle yelling. I didn't flinch, didn't blink. I just nodded slowly and said, "Glad everyone's doing well." Then I walked out of the dining room and back into the hall, the sound of their laughter dragging behind me like chains. I was halfway down the hall when Carmen caught up to me. She touched my arm gently. "Hey, got a minute?" I turned, nodded. Her eyes were red but clear, tired, not fogged over like everyone else drinking their way through grief. We stepped into the den, away from the noise. The lights were dimmer, the conversation from the dining room still echoing faintly. Carmen crossed her arms, leaned against the doorframe. "I meant to ask earlier, what do you actually do?" Her voice was soft but not small, like she actually wanted to hear the truth, not just humor me. I took a second. "I coordinate active ops for NATO peacekeeping initiatives," I said. Flat, simple. She raised her eyebrows. "What does that mean, exactly?" Before I could answer, Linda's voice came floating in from the hallway, sharp and soaked in sarcasm. "Active ops," she repeated like it was a joke. "That sounds real fancy for sorting email and counting bullets." Carmen looked toward the door, then back at me. Linda kept going, not even bothering to lower her voice. She's probably got a spreadsheet open right now in her brain. God forbid someone uses a paperclip without permission. Someone laughed. One of the cousins, I think. I didn't rise to it. Let her swing. Carmen watched me closely, like she was waiting to see how I'd react. I gave her a small shrug. "Depends on the day. Some days I'm moving resources. Some days I'm moving people." Another cousin stepped in with a smirk. "So you're like a glorified travel agent for soldiers?" That one stung, but I didn't flinch. "Something like that," I said. The cousin laughed and wandered off like he'd scored a point. Carmen didn't laugh. She didn't move. She just kept staring at me with that same searching expression, like she was trying to rewind every conversation she'd ever had about me. Linda reappeared in the doorway with a cup of coffee and a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Well, I suppose someone has to schedule all those fancy meetings in Brussels." I said nothing, just met her eyes for half a second before looking back at Carmen. Linda lingered, waiting for a reaction. She didn't get one. After a beat, she huffed a little and disappeared back toward the kitchen, her heels clicking like a warning shot. Carmen's gaze didn't waver. "Why do you let them talk to you like that?" That hit deeper than anything Linda said. I looked down at the floor, then back up. "Because nothing I say changes their version, not until it has to." Carmen nodded slowly, like she understood more than she was letting on. In the silence that followed, I saw it, just a flicker. But it was there. Doubt. Not in me, in them. The cracks were starting, and Carmen was the first one to notice. We were barely 3 steps back into the dining room when Jenna pounced. "So wait," she said loud enough for everyone to hear. "You coordinate active ops for NATO now? That's a hell of a jump from basic training dropout." I didn't look at her. I reached for a napkin off the table, kept my hands moving. Calm. She kept going. "I mean, no offense, but you make it sound like you're some kind of secret agent. You work in logistics, right? That's spreadsheets, schedules, not black ops." I glanced at Carmen. She looked straight at Jenna, then back to me, waiting. Linda didn't miss her cue. "Oh, please," she said, chuckling into her coffee. "Let's not rewrite history here. Michelle couldn't even finish officer selection. That's why she was honorably discharged, remember?" A few heads turned. She came back with her tail between her legs, Linda added, and we all agreed not to make her feel bad about it. I felt the air shift. The room wasn't laughing anymore. They were listening now. Carmen cut in. Michelle, she said, calm and steady, what rank did you retire at? I looked at her and said the words clear. I haven't retired. I'm still active. The silence hit like a dropped dish. Somewhere across the room, someone scoffed. Oh, come on, Linda barked. You're not still in. That's ridiculous. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my wallet. Slid out the ID without a word. Carmen held out her hand. I gave it to her. She looked at it for a long second, then read it aloud. Colonel Michelle Warren, Joint Operations Command. Dead silence, no fake coughs, no side remarks, just eyes shifting between each other, all trying to process it at once. Linda's mouth opened, then shut. Jenna blinked like she'd been slapped. Carmen looked up at me, slow, measured. Is this real? I nodded once. She passed the ID back. Her fingers trembled slightly. Linda finally spoke again. That can't be right. She must have, I don't know, forged it or something? I raised my eyebrows. Forged a DOD-issued ID? That your angle now? Linda looked like she wanted to climb inside her own coffee cup. Someone near the fireplace whispered, Colonel? I turned to Jenna. She wasn't smirking now. She looked lost, like the math didn't add up. I didn't say I told you so. I didn't need to. I tucked the ID back in my wallet and slid it into my pocket. Linda shook her head, still clinging to the edge of denial. Well, we all just thought you left early. You never told us otherwise. Carmen glanced at her. Did anyone ever ask? No one answered. I looked at each of them in turn. Faces I'd known since I was a kid. People who never bothered to check whether their version of me was real. They just agreed on the story that made them feel bigger. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice. I just stood there and let the truth sit in the middle of the room, heavy and undeniable. No one laughed this time. Linda's face twitched like her brain couldn't keep up with her mouth. That ID could be fake, she said, voice shaky now. People make fake ones all the time. Photoshop. I've seen it. I didn't roll my eyes. I didn't even sigh. I just pulled out my phone and tapped into the gallery, scrolled twice, then turned the screen toward her. Here. It was from 3 weeks ago. Me in uniform, standing between a Belgian general and a Turkish defense minister at the NATO regional summit in Brussels. The press banner was right behind us, clear as day, my name tag, my rank. Carmen stepped forward to see. Zoom in, I said. She did. No one spoke. I took my phone back, opened the Department of Defense directory, and handed it to her again. Search it, I said. You can verify rank, assignment, clearance level. Go ahead. She tapped a few times. The room stood still. A few people tried to act like they weren't watching, but they were. Carmen stared at the screen, then slowly lifted her head. It's real, she said. It's all real. Linda sank back into the nearest chair like her knees couldn't hold her weight anymore. We thought you dropped out, she mumbled. You just disappeared. I crossed my arms. No. You assumed I failed. That's not the same thing. She blinked at me like that was the first time it ever occurred to her. You could have corrected us, she said. I didn't budge. When exactly? Between the jokes or after the pity looks? You never once asked. The silence sat hard after that. Chairs creaked. Someone in the kitchen coughed and pretended to be busy with the dishes. Carmen broke it. So what do you actually do? She asked. I mean, what's your job? I looked at her, and this time I gave her the real answer. I coordinate multi-regional security ops. I work with Joint Command to position peacekeeping forces across unstable zones. I write strategy for humanitarian corridors, oversee evacuation routes, and brief both generals and diplomats. My last assignment was helping coordinate joint forces across the Balkans after a pipeline bombing. Her mouth parted slightly, like she didn't expect all that in one breath. I wasn't done. I don't just move people around. I advise on whether they get sent in at all. No one laughed now, not even Jenna. I looked at Linda, who suddenly couldn't meet my eyes. She stared down at her mug like it held the answer she never bothered to look for. I turned to Carmen. You want to know the difference between me and the stories they told? She nodded. I don't need anyone's permission to be who I am. But damn, it would have been nice if my own family gave me a chance. I stayed standing while everyone else sat back down, quieter now. Their eyes weren't mocking anymore, just confused, maybe guilty, definitely smaller. I looked at Carmen. You want to know the truth? I deployed 3 times. She didn't say anything. She just gave me that same patient look, the one she probably used with Tyler when he didn't want to open up. 2 to Afghanistan, 1 to Syria, I said. I was wounded outside Kandahar. Took shrapnel in my side and shoulder. I got airlifted out. Spent 6 months in a rehab unit in Germany. A few people shifted in their seats. I didn't tell anyone, I went on, because what was the point? Y'all didn't care when I joined. You sure as hell wouldn't have cared when I nearly died. Linda flinched like I'd slapped her. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. I stopped coming to Christmas, I said. Stopped answering calls. Because every time I showed up, it was like walking into a room full of mirrors that only reflected my worst day. Y'all made me feel like I was a joke. Jenna looked down. Her face was red, like she'd finally realized I'd heard everything over the years. I turned to Carmen. Tyler was the only one who ever called just to ask how I was. No agenda, no fake concern. He just gave a damn. She swallowed hard. He did. More than you probably knew. What do you mean? Carmen reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper, wrapped around a small velvet box. She held it close for a second before passing it over to me. This was in his will, she said. He left it for you. I took it, hands suddenly not so steady. He used to talk about you all the time, she said. Read every article with your name in it. Watched press briefings when he knew you were involved. He kept a folder, clipped news stories, reports, everything. Showed them off at his base like a proud kid with a superstar cousin. I stared at the velvet box in my hand. It was light, but my chest felt heavier than it had all day. He told everyone you were the real deal, Carmen said. He wanted to be like you. I opened the note first, to my cousin who became the warrior I only dreamed of being. Tyler, that's when I cracked. I didn't try to hide it. My eyes burned, and the tears came hot and fast, straight down my face before I could blink them back. No sobbing, just tears and silence. I opened the box. It was his bronze star. I held it in my hand, small but solid. It felt warmer than it should have, like he'd just taken it off yesterday. I didn't even know he kept up with my career, I said, my voice rough. He did, Carmen said. You were his hero, Michelle. Long before any of us figured out we'd been dead wrong, I stood there for another second, medal in one hand, note in the other. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the outsider in the room. I felt seen by the only person who ever mattered. Linda stood slowly, both hands gripping the back of a dining chair like it was holding her up. Her voice came out softer, but it wasn't regret. I knew that tone. It was damage control. I never meant to hurt you, Michelle, she said. I was just trying to push you. Wanting what's best, I let out a short, humorless breath. No, you wanted me to fail. Her mouth opened, but I cut her off. You wanted me to crash and burn so your daughter could shine brighter. You told everyone I quit because it made you feel better about the fact that I didn't. Jenna flinched, and Linda's face went red, but I wasn't done. You didn't push me. You erased me. You built this whole story around me being weak. And every time I stayed quiet, you got bolder with the lie. The room froze again. Jenna wiped her eyes, voice shaky. We didn't know. I swear we just believed what she said. Yeah, I said. You believed it because it was easier. And you laughed. Every damn time. You laughed like it didn't matter if it wasn't true. Jenna stepped forward, tears running now. How do we fix this? You don't. She blinked, stunned. What's broken isn't my pride, I said. It's your character. Linda's jaw clenched. Her hands were still on the chair like she was bracing for something. I looked her dead in the eyes. You humiliated me in front of strangers. Rewrote my life like it was some sad little joke. And now that it blew up in your face, you want forgiveness handed to you like it costs nothing. She didn't respond, just stared back like she'd finally run out of words. Carmen stepped in gently. Michelle, are you gonna stay? I looked down at the medal still in my hand. Tyler's handwriting folded inside my pocket. My chest ached, but it wasn't from the fight. I honored Tyler, I said. That's why I came. I turned and walked toward the front door without another word. Let them sit in the silence I'd carried for years. The conference room buzzed with quiet movement. Screens flickering on, papers shuffled, someone testing the mics near the far table. I stood near the back, scanning the final draft of the briefing slides while my team double-checked security protocols. We were prepping for the Regional Commanders Summit. Hi, brass. No room for error. Colonel, my assistant said, stepping in from the hallway. There's a woman at the gate asking to speak with you. Says her name's Linda. I didn't look up. Tell her this. Exact words. Apologies are like medals. They mean something only when earned, not begged for. He paused, then nodded. Yes, ma'am. I finished reviewing the last slide, hit save, then stepped out and pulled my phone from my pocket, scrolled to Carmen's name and hit call. She answered on the second ring. Hey, you still got it? I asked. Right here, she said. Framed it just like he wanted. Can I swing by later this week? Anytime. I'll have it ready after we hung up. I drove straight to her place after duty hours. No need to go inside. Carmen handed me the display case right at the door. No small talk, just a firm squeeze of my hand before letting me go. I brought it back to base that night. My office shelf already held rows of plaques, service coins, commendations, proof of every fight they said I never faced. I cleared space at the center, set Tyler's medal down carefully, glass facing forward, with the folded note resting behind it. His words still echoed like he was standing right next to me. To my cousin who became the warrior I only dreamed of being. I stared at it for a long second. Then I whispered, he always knew. And I went back to work. And know if you want this story formatted for audio narration or adapted into a script.